Hello, my name's Daniel Ripley from CG Dreams, and today we're going to be looking at how we can speed up the process of rigging by using the standard mirror tool within MODO. What we want to do is we want to be able to just do one side as much as we can on one side and then mirror it across to the other. Before I continue with this, there are a few things that you can't mirror across. You can't mirror across IK goals, but you can assign the IK still. You can't mirror up vectors, morphs or weights. So other than these things that you can't mirror across, there's still a lot that you can. So let's have a look at what we can mirror across. So as you can see here, I've just made a very basic skeleton here. And what we want to do is we want to mirror the hierarchy from this particular joint here, the clavicle bone and the hip bone. But before we do this, we want to make sure that we carry across as much as we can to the other side. One of those such things that we want to carry across is locators. We're going to be adding quite a few locators during the rigging process, so it's best to add as many as we can and set them up the best that we can before we go and copy them over. So the locators that I'm going to be adding are based off the video that's made by Andy Brown for the Fireboy. I'm going to add my first locator. I'm going to move this right out of the way there, and then I'm going to duplicate it a few times. That's just moving it halfway between the body, and I'm just going to right click and duplicate. You can't use the shortcut keys to duplicate because it creates a instance of it, and instance don't work. But we're selecting all the previous ones, holding down the shift key to duplicate them, and you soon have quite a few done. So I'll just do 3 more. I'm sure I'm going to be able to use all of these. Let's just start dragging and dropping them in place. So from the drop action menu, I'm going to click on match position, and I'm going to start dropping these into place. Now if you find that these locators are too large, then you're best, before you start copying them, go to the display and change the size. In fact, any attribute that you wish to change it on the first one, so that when you duplicate it you don't have to go for this all over again. So I'm going to drag and drop one into the shoulder, one into the thigh, one into the elbow, one into the shin, one into the foot, the ball of the foot, and the end of the toe. Add another one to the ball of the foot. This is going to be for our up vector. Press the W key and just move this up. And I'll also add another one for the heel. Get that located just behind there. Of course it would have been quicker just to copy the one on the toe there, but that's fine, no big issue there. So we've got a few already set there. Let's select the one on the knee and move this forward. This is going to be for the directional constraint. We select the one on the elbow, and this one is for the directional constraint for the elbow when we assign the up vector. Also I add another one to this position, and what I'll do with this also is I like to get this one and match rotation. So we click on match rotation drop action. We drag and drop it, and it become evident why we do this a bit later on. Okay, I think we've got pretty much every one of them there now. Now what we can do at this particular point is we can make sure that we name all of these so that we actually know what we're selecting, because the name convention is going to carry across to the other side, and it just makes it a bit more easier when you're working on things. So I've taken a bit of time to organise them and name them as I want them, and what you also notice is that I put them in additional locators. Now what this basically means is it means that I can select all of the locators when I want to just by clicking on the main locator which everything's parented to. One thing I didn't do and that was kind of position the locator that it's adjoined to in the scene here, but I don't really need to be seeing it visibly anyway. This is just something that we select from the items menu here. So with all these things in place, I'll just make sure that I have got all of them in place. It looks as though I'm just missing one there. Just where the elbow is. I did add it, but for some reason it's not there now. Add that to controllers, that's it. Okay, so now that we've got this set up, we can actually assign these to function as they intend to be functioned. As an example, for this particular one, we're going to be using the insert, which makes this the parent of the bone that we're dragging it into while taking on board its rotational axis. Did exactly the same for the hip. And now we can do the parent in place. So the drop action parent in place I'm going to select, and also I want to select that ankle. In fact, that's not the one, it's the controllers. So the ankle, I want the size to be a bit bigger. It makes it a bit easier to select later on when we've got the IK goal in the way. That's good. So we're going to do a bit of parenting now. So we're going to parent just as in the Andy Brown video for the Fireboy. Ankle to the foot to the toe, and the toe to the heel. So this is all carried across for later on. And it looks as though we're missing one actually for some reason. Maybe we accidentally deleted it earlier on, but we're just match position, drag that into the toe. This is going to be for our up vector. And I've been using a name convention by putting DIR on the end, so I know what it's for. And I don't think we named this one, so I'm just going to quickly name this vector that we added in here. That was the one. Okay, that's great, that's good. So we've got all of these in place now. Now we can assign the IK. So I'm just going to grab that top bone there, the humerus bone that it's representing, hand bone, go to IK, assign IK, but don't assign the goal, not just yet. Do exactly the same. Assign IK, and why we've done it now is because we are able to put any constraints that we need on this now. So as an example here, when we go to rotate, we want to make sure that we're only rotating in this particular case on the x-axis. So we can go here and we can turn everything else off. We can do exactly the same for the forearm bone there. We don't want to be rotating in the x-axis in this particular case. So we will make sure that the X is turned off. Okay. I think that pretty much has it now. So then what we can do next is we can actually use the mirror tool. So to access the mirror tool, what we need to do is, while we're still in setup, we need to go and click on the model, and it brings up this modeling palette. This enables us to still see the bones in the locators and still work in the same view and setup that we're in, but we can now have access to the tools that we need. In this particular case, it's duplicate, mirror. Before we select this, however, we just need to make sure that we select what we need. So as an example here, I need to select the collarbone, shift click and select this hip bone, and then I'm going to control and just click on these controllers. Okay, with that done, you can do one last check to make sure that you've done everything else and it's all correct, and then you can go ahead and use the mirror tool. So I'm going to select mirror, make sure they're on the x-axis, just click in the screen here, and you'll see the skeleton sometimes may go off to the axis here, but what we have to do is just make sure that the center on X is 0 and it pop into place. Spacebar to drop the tool. Now you'll notice that we've got all the bones, all the locators mirrored exactly as they are to the other side, and that's exactly the way that we want it. Yeah, that's good. And if you want, you can go ahead and check that everything is mirrored across as it should be. Unfortunately, it's not kept the name convention for the other side, but we can obviously go in there and name everything that we need. But the main thing is that we've got everything in place, like we've got the locators that we need and the IK chain set up the way we need it. Also, you'll notice that if you've assigned everything correctly for the bones for the other side, when you double click on the root joint, everything will automatically select. In this particular case, I didn't parent the hip joint here, the root of the hip joint, to the main root bone, so I can just do this now. Do a parent in place, and now when I double click on it, it all selects. So continuing on from where we left off, we're now going to select the end of the chain where we added the IK, and then we can click on Goal. This way it gets assigned correctly. And then we can go ahead and assign any up vectors that we need to be assigning. can see why we've made this locator a little bit larger, so that when we parent it, it's easier to select the locator when we're selecting the goal. And once we've done the other side, everything should work as it is intended to work. That's great. Of course, we can go ahead to do the rest. We add a directional constraint, shift click, add the up vector, and there we go. And of course, you notice that sometimes when you do this, that you may find that the joint doesn't rotate or align correctly after we apply the up vector. This is why I added the additional controllers, or shall I say the effector. Now this effector, or locator as it's so called, is going to be used to reposition it again. And now I've just turned this off temporarily, the visibility here. We just turn this back on. In fact, we just increase the size so we can see this a bit more better. We want to match its rotation, and then everything pops exactly back the way it was before, but of course with the directional constraint in place. We can now go ahead to assign the directional constraints for the knee. Shift click and then select the up vector. Now before you assign this, you're always better off to zero out all the joints, including the actual locator itself. That way you'll find that when you do apply the directional constraint, that the joints will actually retain its original rotation that it was in to start with, otherwise it may be out of position. You can see here that this IK goal needs zeroing out. We do exactly the same for the other one as well. If you double click on the root and you go to the locator, you shouldn't see in the position rotation mixed being displayed. If you do, it means some of the joints or the goal or locators are not positioned or zeroed out. Directional constraint to the elbow. And the popping of that joint we don't need to worry about. We can sort this out in a minute. Now, remember earlier on that I actually added an extra effector here? Well, this is what this is for. It just makes things a lot more easier for us to be able to assign the next thing that we're going to be doing. We go to match position. We just drag and drop this. Again, with everything zeroed out, we can apply the up vector constraints for the directional constraint. And then you'll notice earlier on that I had made the provisions by adding this effector here with the same rotation as the joint. Well, this is where we can use it by using the drop action and match position. We just drag, making sure that we do drag it, and it will put it exactly back where it was before. Now we're done, we can now bind the mesh. And now we've got a skeleton which is identical symmetrically, both left and right. So if we come out of setup now, we can check everything that we've been doing. And of course our new IK Go is now down here. Just pop back into setup mode again. It's not that I've done this by a step-by-step approach. I'm now going to just go ahead and just do it straight out without talking, so you can see just how quick the process actually is and how much time we do actually save.